Hey everyone, Matt here. Welcome back to my channel. So it is a rainy, wet morning here in Central Florida, but I wanted to get out here and film. So I wanted to give you all an update on the Supertunia Vista Jazzberries that I planted in my front yard a few weeks back. They're looking amazing. And then I also wanted to drive over to my friend's house and give you an update on the front porch makeover that we did last month, where we planted up sword ferns, creeping jenny, coleus plants, sweet potato vines, and Supertunia Vista Bubblegum plants. And then I also wanted to talk about a spider mite issue we had to deal with at my friend's house, as well as the weekly fertilization schedule we just started. So let's get into it. So before we head over to my friend's house, I wanted to show you my Supertunias. So like I said, these are the Supertunia Vista Jazzberry variety. They've been in the ground now for about 3 weeks, and they're really filling in this area nicely. They've put on quite a bit of size, and I really love the bright pop of color they're adding to this area of my landscape. So let me give you another view from the top. You can see some of the plants are already touching, which is amazing. They've put on so much growth in such a short amount of time. So if you remember from the original planting video, my vision for this area was just to have a sea of these purple magenta Supertunia blooms, and I feel like I'm well on my way to achieving that. And while we're out here, I might as well give you an update on the white verbenas that I planted underneath my milkweed plant a few weeks back as well. They've also put on quite a bit of size. They've probably doubled in size in the last few weeks. They're looking great, they're blooming. So let's go check those out really quick before we head over to my friend's house. And here are the white verbenas. So I tucked these in underneath my milkweed plant. So if you saw the original video when I planted these in, I talked about how my milkweed had been dealing with pest issues all summer. It's finally on the mend, but towards the bottom of the plant, it was pretty bare. So I thought tucking in these verbenas, using them as a ground cover, would help fill in the gap in the mulch. And like I said, I feel like they've doubled in size. Some of them are almost touching. These ones over here, almost touching. But in a few more weeks, I feel like this area is just gonna be totally full with these beautiful white blooms. All right, so let's hop in my car and head over to my friend's house. I can't wait to give you an update on her front porch containers. They've put on a ton of growth. They're looking really, really beautiful. All right, so we made it to my friend's house. So here's the front porch area. So these container plants have seriously put on so much growth over the last few weeks. So starting with the pink flowers, those are the Supertunia Vista Bubblegum plants. And then on the ends of the gray containers, we have the sweet potato vines. So they've easily doubled, if not tripled in size. And then in the black containers, we have the coleus plants, which have put on a ton of height. And that added height really brings balance next to the taller gray containers. And altogether, it's really done a good job at fencing in this front porch area. So here's another angle. You can really see the plants are starting to cascade and spill over the edge. So like I just mentioned, the goal was to really fence in this area with these container plants, and I really think we achieved that with this setup. Coming up onto the front porch area, you can see the creeping jenny that we repurposed from another area of the yard is doing really well. Unfortunately, the sword ferns that we transplanted from the side yard didn't make it. After about a week, they started to go into shock and they dried up and they were looking really rough. So we popped them out and bought some ferns from the garden center to replace them. So they are looking great, they are thriving. And then here, we had a Halloween skull planter. It was actually a repurposed candy dish, but after Halloween, we went in and swapped out the planter for this new white ceramic planter that's looking great. So like I said, this porch makeover was done about a month ago, so I'll go ahead and link it in the video description of this video in the event you missed it and you want to go back and watch it. So I also wanted to talk through a spider mite issue that we dealt with on the Supertunia plants. About 2 weeks after planting, my friend actually noticed some white fuzz and tiny little bugs on some of the Supertunias, so we actually took a few leaf samples down to our local garden center, and they identified the bugs as spider mites. And then they recommended a BioAdvanced 3-in-1 spray. So this spray, you apply it once, and it's supposed to last for 30 days, and it's rainproof, which is great. So we applied the spray for the mite control. We saw a solid improvement on the plants. There were still some areas where we were seeing that white fuzz. So we actually went online and we found this homemade concoction of 70% isopropyl alcohol and water shaken up in a bottle. So it's 1 part alcohol to 4 parts water. And then we sprayed it, we spot treated the areas we were still seeing some of that fuzz. And after a few days of that, everything was cleared up and the plants were looking great again. And just a good rule of thumb, if you're gonna spray anything to control pests, I highly recommend that you do it at night when all the pollinators are inactive. If you spray during the day, you risk harming the bees and the butterflies. So in this instance, my friend sprayed at night, and then once we eliminated all of the spider mites, these plants rebounded really quickly because of their vigorous growth habit. I'll make sure to link the 3-in-1 spray as well as the recipe for the isopropyl alcohol concoction in the video description below. So I also wanted to talk through the new weekly fertilization schedule that we just started with these plants. If you saw the original planting video, you know that I amended the soil in these containers with a granular all-purpose slow-release fertilizer. So after about 4 weeks, we started a weekly application of water-soluble plant food. So like I just mentioned, these plants have a very vigorous growth habit, so this weekly application of plant food is really going to help give them the nutrients to grow and continue to perform. We're using this plant food. You can see it's a 20-20-20 all-purpose fertilizer. It promotes large blooms and deep green foliage. You can use it on a variety of indoor and outdoor plants, including annuals and perennials, as well as cactus, succulents, and houseplants. So I'll go ahead and link this in the video description as well. And then like I always say, anytime you use fertilizers, always follow the instructions on the bag. So this fertilizer application is really simple. I'm just gonna mix 2 tablespoons of the water-soluble fertilizer with 2 gallons of water in my watering can, and then I'm gonna thoroughly wet all of the plants in the containers. So that's a wrap with today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.